Welcome to segment 3 of the Honesty Project on annoying coworkers. We hope you enjoy this, and we would love your feedback. Anything that you think we should know, we want to hear it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you really like it, subscribe. Thanks. Enjoy.
Yeah, sense of agency. Even the kudos that they came in with, they were identified as being this really good person in this, so they have to come in and immediately prove that within 5 minutes of walking in the door, and they choose to do that by attacking somebody that they potentially see as being weaker or
A threat. Or somebody that's going to make them look bad, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So then that's a personality thing too, and it's not necessarily situational. And then the other thing I want to throw out there, so I'm going to throw out two things at one time, is when we're talking about practice, what do you think about good old-fashioned role playing with your friends? Do you think?
I think it's great. I think it's great if you know what you're trying to accomplish. And that's the thing. If I just in this conversation, if somebody walks away from watching this and says, you know what, I just figured out that when I'm in Little Me Land, or anybody's in Little Me Land, by the way, you hit the word, the underlying word is fear. When you're in Little Me Land, you're fear driven. When you're authentic, it's more, I looked at actually the opposite on the internet of fear is curiosity. Isn't that fascinating? I never thought about that, but it's when you're coming from an authentic place, you're open to the full conversation. You're open to understanding that somebody's in Little Me Land. You're open to understanding that you have a natural pull to go to Little Me Land. But you also now, just in this little bit, think about the things that you're able to articulate that have this person where they are. And so the things that you said about this person and why they might be behaving the way they are all things that increase that space. It helps you to understand that person is where they are. So I'm just going to go down to the far end of this. If this were an employee-employer situation, what I want to be super clear about is it is 30 to 50% chance that person needs to be let go. And I'm totally cool with this. This is not a model that says, hey, every ending's going to be a happy one. Mm-hmm. Because there are some people that are just toxic and cannot behave in a way, can't get out of that fear that translates into powerlessness and victimization and that sort of thing. There's some people that you're just not going to be able to have enough of a response with that it makes it worth them being around. And I am a huge proponent of getting rid of toxic people, but only after I've given it my best shot to look at it from the standpoint of somebody who is trying to operate from an authentic standpoint, trying to put perspective around why this person is being the way they are, which you just did a beautiful job of, by the way, and then seeing if there's a way that I can help that person to move to a place that is authentic for them and that they're more happy. The funny thing is, above this line that I kind of envision, thoughts that don't serve me, stories that don't serve me, and then below that line, authentic thoughts, that sort of thing that do serve an authentic me. My thoughts serve me. They help me to put everything into perspective without denying anything, without denying that this person's behaving in a way that doesn't serve themselves, that it's really uncomfortable for me, and that I want to respond in kind. Understanding all that and helping that person to come back down below that line. If you can accomplish that, you've just created the greatest employee you could ever ask for. See what I'm saying? If you can get them to live in that place.
Yeah. And I've certainly have had success that way. So my path has some light at the end of the tunnel, but every once in a while, there's just that personality that just gets right up my nose.
Yeah. And what you know now is that's where you're big practice needs to be, is with those people, because I guarantee you, if you're able to find a place where you can, first of all, back yourself down under that line to a more authentic place with practice, you're going to be in a better place. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is emotions aren't facts, emotions are indicators. So if I think that, the fact is that I'm angry at this person and I'm in little me mode, I'm in problem mode, I'm not in solution mode when I go below that line. So what happens is, when I realize that I can come back down below this line more and more authentic more of the time, I put myself in a position where I'm able to be in a better place and happier. And then I'm also in a position to be in a better place to bring that person down. And if they can't do it, if you can't do it with some time, I mean, I think, once or twice, man, I've had employees that have worked for me where it took me a year to get them to get to a place where they operated more authentically more of the time, but it was well worth it. So, and I'm not saying that this is, gee, Melodie, you should take a year working with this person. And I also think the other side of this is, man, oh man, it's time to talk to the boss, right? But after I've said, I would think part of the conversation would be, look, I understand that we disagree. Help me to understand really clearly, and then let's go talk to the boss about how we want to approach this. And really, there's almost always a higher authority that we can rely on to help dial that conversation down.
Yeah. I have to admit, I kind of hate to go there, but in this particular situation, there was an interesting aspect of this, in that my boss happened to be in my office that day and was at a smaller desk we were working on a project together when I took the call, and I was on the call for an hour, and I kept looking over at him with this face like, what? Who is this person? And I remember when I finally got off the phone, like I said, with this first hour-long conversation, I looked over at him and I said, do not ever hire anybody without me being in on the hire process again.
And what was the boss's approach on or explanation about that person's behavior? And this is not an uncommon situation, but the boss was 100% stepping out of assisting with that. And for probably two reasons. One, the hire was made and it was brand new. So doing a pivot and maybe unhiring probably was premature. Yeah. The other was that my boss didn't deal with conflict well. So their way of dealing with conflict was telling you to work it out, which is not wrong. But sometimes, I felt like I got handed a situation because people didn't do their due diligence. On one hand, she had some great results. So, it's interesting, Well, and I think also that, sitting down and talking to the boss separately and saying, after you've tried to bring this person back into an authentic place where they're able to still have their opinion that they think it damages the brand and be able to articulate it. Help me to help you articulate why you think this is hurting the brand. And then going through that process and then saying to the boss, listen, here's where we're at. I can't spend an hour on the phone every time that this person calls. And I've done everything that I can to help them to work from a place that I think is authentic, and we're still struggling, but I think that you can be a part of this solution just by listening. And what I'd love for you to do in the next call that we have is have you be on it, and I don't want you to make a decision. If you know that they're avoiding conflict, then let's talk about it after and see if we can't help to frame up a way. One of the things that has always made me crazy is this idea that if you're upset with somebody, you have to deal with them face to face. I think it's, for me, I'm not a big proponent of that as a first step. Obviously, we go through practicing and trying to figure out how to get them below that line. But the beauty of writing out an email to a person and saying, let me tell you, this is where I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I'm struggling with it.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I think you're making a mistake, but let's talk about it. And then the last line is always, I'm ready to talk to you whenever you want, but I want you to have the ability to digest what my thinking
I
is.
agree. I agree.
And some of those letters have taken 2 weeks for me to write, like from the initial, oh my God, a guy telling one of my clients, a vendor telling my client, high-end client, I distinctly told you not to do something. My head wanted to explode, right? And then figuring out that with the client that this guy had to go, blah, 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 blah. And then being able to write that out. And he wanted to, well, why don't you just let me work directly with the client? Well, number one, I never said you couldn't work directly with the client. I just needed to be there. But, to walk through that process and have it articulated in a way that you feel super good about, and it's not just a venting on them, there's tremendous value. So going back a ways, practice can happen all the time, and it's just taking the time to do a little bit at a time, especially I spend a lot of time in little chunks. I've got to work on a big spreadsheet project. Oh my God, I'm so resistant about this. I don't want to do this, but I know that I want my client to be happy. I love when I can deliver something that really works. And you know what? Truth of the matter is, when I start doing this, I really tend to enjoy it. It doesn't bother me that much. And so those little written statements that seem so silly and not that powerful end up being hugely powerful, because I've said, for you, the one would be with the next call with this person would be, I am not looking forward to this call because I can see it going south really, really fast. But wouldn't it be great if I could help this person to feel heard, to feel like they're in a place where what they have to say matters?
Yeah.
Those and all the time not was saying, and they're wrong. Because I bet you there's some validity to what she's saying. Absolutely. And maybe there's some little things that you can do to adjust this. But see, when we're in, if you go back to this line, and thoughts that serve me in the moment, below that line, but above it is little me, I'm cranky and I'm in problem oriented mode. If I can start with that, just a little bit of thinking in my brain, I'm shocked for me at how it's changed my work life from the standpoint of doing things that I don't look forward to doing, and how much more rewarding they become. And it's all with just that little bit of practice.
Yeah. Well, now with her, just to sort of end the story, it was kind of interesting. She's a very combative personality, and I got to the point where I realized I wasn't going to change that, and participating was in some ways giving her what she wanted. I sometimes felt that if she needed a conflict during the day to sort of energize herself, she might sometimes pick up the phone and pick me as her conflict.
Yep.
So I get to the point where, and we ended up working together relatively well, even with this Personality, on her point, it was, I think, a personality trait. Because I would do this. I would listen as long as I could listen. And then I would say, I can no longer listen if you continue to go on about this, as like, I wouldn't say like a bulldog, I will have to hang up on you. And then I would say, I'm going to hang up on you. Okay, this is me hanging up. And she would get so upset. She would be like, do not hang up on me. And I'd be like, nope, it is time for me to hang up. I have to go. And I would hang up on her.
And you know what? But that is not hanging up on somebody. I mean, honestly, what you're talking about is setting a stage for them to change their behavior, and you being light about it. And one of the things that you bring up, and I think it's so important, is lightening up about this stuff, right? It's so easy to go down the road of, and when you start lightening up, so then the question is, okay, what are the things that I can do earlier on when they start to behave that way? My favorite word, dude. Dude, what's going on over there? I don't know what it is for you, but what is it that you can begin to do to help that person? Were you delivering it with a smile? Oh, are we going down this road again? Okay, let me put on my armor.
Yeah.
Or let me put up my barriers, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But something that calls them on their behavior in a way that they really don't have much of a choice. If you say, oh, you SOB, we're going down this road again, I'm ready. Like, that is not going to serve you. But if we can do it in a light way, okay, hold on, I'm bracing myself for what I can feel is about to be coming, and doing it in a lighter way. Holy crap. And then you give them the ability, and then they go through that and you zip it, and then they're like, ugh. Thanks for watching. We hope you found it valuable. We look forward to your thumbs up, and if you really liked it, a subscribe. Also, we're looking for any feedback you have. We appreciate it. We want to do better. Thanks, and take care.